we all need to realize that before creation, before anything was forced into anyone's illusional world, there was no need for attachment. It was already pure. There was no need for anything. We was molded to need and to attach to set parameters or like the characters or avatars that we inhabited or given by creation, by the creators, matrix gods, whatever you want to call them, whatever name you call them or believe to be named and so called. So throughout time, other beings followed their footsteps, creating and creating more, causing more good and evil, ultimately, more chaos. So there is a cycle of trying to undo the damage of creation throughout history and time, biblically and non biblically, historically and non historically, fiction. What I'm trying to say is that some have gotten so invested that it's like their progress they don't want to lose their progress. So they call themselves leaving behind legacies and forcing other beings into existence just to say and feel the sense that their legacy can live on through someone else, as well as continuing stories, narratives through the masses or through people. So it lives on through others, subconscious until they pass on, because you can't carry the physical or the material, the mind with you. It's you have always been an eternal spiritual being that exists before the lies, before life, and you exist, like I said, after it. So it's best not to go back into the false light, because that is where you're liable to end up and wait and then be reincarnated back into material or to this plane. And if you're seeking to escape and to remain free, you will stay in permanent salvation. You won't go into that false light. That is ultimately what certain holy beings was relaying to the masses. Not for the simple fact of trying to weed one person out or to single out an individual group of people. It was for access and benefit for all humanity, for all beings who are living, who are sentient beings on this in this plane. So we have what it takes, like I said before, to break free and to stay free, instead of attaching and constantly investing in a world, in a lie, in a simulation that originally we didn't ask or need for. But since we are here now, it's we should be trying to achieve the noble thing and right thing to do, which is to not continue the game. Even though you invested so many years of times and ages of generations of fighting to change it and to develop it, to some degree it is still of this plane. You can't even take the simulation with you. You didn't need the simulation from the beginning to begin with. So you have to ask yourself and really internalize what I'm trying to tell you, is that we didn't need the simulation from the beginning. It's you take a part in it, but it's still not yours. But they want you to attach to something so you can feel ownership, partial ownership of it, so you can stay invested into it, so you can continue coming back. That's why they try to love bomb you and use that everything was created in love, so you can then emotionally attach yourself to something of this world, to keep you wanting to go back into the loop, to keep you wanting to go back into the false light, the light code generated simulation, this world, to keep going back into what the matrix gods created for you to be ensnared into in the first place. Even religious doctrines disclose and gives you hints that once upon a time you didn't even really need it. That's why I say when the first humans, the first beings realized where they were before creation, there was a uproar. Then when the first humans came about, it was foreign to them. They didn't desire anything of flesh. They were purely innocent. But when they were exposed to the evil, the more fleshly desire aspects of existing in these avatars, these in this plane, physical plane, they desired more of the flesh in some cases, and then that's where evil was born from. From knowledge, they became co-creators. But that's where Yeshua, other holy beings came into play to remind us of our celestial origins, our spiritual origins, and how we can escape this and to remain free and to not be attached to this. This is our hopes of liberating everyone from this plane once and for all. Even though progress has been made to so-called make this realm a better place, so you have to ask yourself this question: do I want to keep continuously fighting to upkeep this progressive game, or do I want to finally break free and return back to spirit and stay there, back to the original state, to your truest state, your true light state, instead of just going into a false light, a light coded realm over and over again. It's like playing a game, and you're not wanting to upgrade or advance, or you're trying to pick the next game and the next game and the next game after that, and it's pretty much the redundant foundational world or game you previously played, just maybe a slightly better graphics, but it's still lackluster because you already been through it. It's like feeding into the same stories over and over again, but a little bit of twist here and a little bit of twist there. So you got to ask yourself, is it really worth continuing reincarnating? Is it really worth upkeeping this? Or is it worth you returning back to your spiritual state, where you are boundless and free, where you didn't need anything? A boundless being wouldn't pick to be forced into parameters and limitations and bounds. A boundless being wouldn't choose bondage, not by its own will. If it is already boundless and eternal, it would not pick bondage. A boundless being will not pick bondage. I'm sorry. It's the truth. A boundless being wouldn't pick limitations. It's it, the math ain't mathing. It's just not. Um, a balanced being wouldn't pick to go into a world where you have to climb and climb up to achieve more and more and more and more, only to, lose it in the flesh, only to revert or return back to being boundless, just to go back into a system, just to come back down, back into bondage, just to relearn different things or the same things over again, with the opportunity to advance a little bit more the next time around. And then you just go through it again and again and again. Listen, does that even make sense? To go back into bondage over and over again? No. It does not make sense to be a boundless, limitless being and choosing to come back into a simulation or world or being in bondage, limitation, different credentials or attributes. Whether you operate or start in the working class, impoverished class, middle class, it doesn't matter, because you still are dealing with some form of limitation somewhere, as well as upheavals, good and the bad, trials and tribulations, good moments, happiness, joy, with moments of despair or rejection, whatever have you. The whole ordeal of living. Like I said, it wouldn't make sense. So this is why I advocate so hard for no procreation and antinatalism, infertility, sanitization, and depopulation. Because a spirit, a balanced being, would not choose to be here. And like I said before, my theory is that the first initial false light being, matrix being, whatever, awakened, dispersed abruptly first, and sucked everything else into its world, unsanctioned and non-consensually. It was not asked. It didn't get permission from anyone. But it gave so-called free will to balance out that act. That's why I say that act of creation is bad. Okay? But we now have to exercise our free will to do what's right. Because even that being understands that we have that right to choose the noble route, which is to stop reenacting that original sin. Stop reenacting that act of creation, because it is unsanctioned and non-consensual. To choose to be balanced and free and to remain there, instead of choosing to play the game over and over again. Despite of the attachment, despite of the progress made. It gets old. You can't take the progress. It's just going to stay here until you reincarnate and you reincarnate to something new. Or you think until you reawaken and you realize, okay, I kind of already did this. Or I'm trying to upgrade it differently. Learn something different, but you're still under the parameters and attributes and limitations of this world up under the confinements of the game. And you try to break modes, and you do to some degree. And then you leave and reincarnate if you choose to. That's why I'm saying don't go into the false light. If you want to really break out and stay free, don't go into the false light. I can go on and on. I think I've made my point. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Have a good one.